After my review of He Who Fights with Monsters Book 1, I learned how passionate fans of the series are. Most commenters were respectful and even helpful. For real, I got plenty of insights into the series that have helped me enjoy it more. One person did call me a dipshit for not understanding Jason's character on a deep level after just one book that barely scratches the surface of his character. When I read and review a book, all the context I have is what's in the book. Future books and events in a series aren't a factor. They can't be. I don't know about them. If I do a full series review, different story, but I can't take into consideration things that haven't happened. Anyway, partway through book 2 of He Who Fights with Monsters, between organising barbecues, training, and hanging out with his buddies, I realised what I was reading and why it wasn't landing for me. This isn't an action adventure story. That was my mistake, thinking it's something it's not. That's partly not my fault, by the way, which I'll explain soon when I discuss the importance of setting accurate reader expectations. But no, He Who Fights with Monsters isn't the action adventure story it's initially presented as. It's a goddamn soap opera, and knowing this changes everything.
No fluff writing advice. Cut the fluff!
After reading book 2 of He Who Fights with Monsters, I have a better understanding of why people like me are so put off and confused by the series. It's actually a book 1 problem, not a book 2 problem. So before I jump back a book, let's discuss the delightfully good and the monstrously bad bits of He Who Fights with Monsters. Book 2. Firstly, in my review of He Who Fights with Monsters Book 1, I mentioned what a smug, douchey, unlikable, self-satisfied, self-righteous, self-filleting twat Jason is. I believe my exact words were, Jason is one of the most unlikable protagonists to ever stain the page. I also said, that's what I like about him. Why? Because I like unlikable characters. It may sound oxymoronic to say, I like unlikable characters, but it's true. In book 1, I couldn't stand Jason's punchable personality, but when written well and used well, unlikable characters can be more compelling than their likable counterparts. Read a few Dostoevsky novels, I definitely said that wrong, and you soon learn to appreciate unlikable, downright despisable characters. Jason Asano has nothing on the Underground Man. Anyway, my problem with Jason was never his character or his personality, it was how his character's used. So much wasted potential, which I'll get to when I discuss the bad bits of book 2. But what book 2 does do well, or starts to do, is peel back some of Jason's layers. Finally, we're starting to get a clearer picture of the guy, and it's tough to admit, but I'm starting to hate him a bit less. Like that annoying friend whose specific flavour of irritating you're just used to. Ah, that's just Brian, what are you gonna do? Now that I say that, 2 books in, it could just be Stockholm Syndrome. In book 2, Jason starts opening up about his life before his eyebrowless entry into the new world. In my opinion, a lot of this character exploration should have happened way earlier in book 1, but with the soap opera style of He Who Fights with Monsters, I understand the slow burn, even if I don't find it particularly compelling. One particular scene that highlights the potential of the series is Jason confronting his biggest fear. Assuming it's accurate, that one moment gives more insight into his character than almost anything else he's said or done, because it's authentic and unfiltered. With that said, while I see the potential, I'm worried that potential will get squandered, like some of the potential of that scene is squandered. Yes, it's an illuminating moment, but the scene itself could have been a little more tense. It doesn't feel like Jason is truly challenged by what he sees. There's maybe a moment of doubt, but I wanted to see a little more turmoil. I mean, it's his biggest fear, and he brings the same energy as someone doing something mundane like ordering fast food. No, I won't have fries with that. Character-wise, the highlight of book 2 is the secondary characters. They're actually quite well written and many are getting proper character development, most of them more than Jason. Didn't Jason say he was going to stop antagonizing people after the Thadwick situation? Then he continues to antagonize people, sometimes random people. At this point, he's pissed off quite a few powerful people. Are we going to get some consequences for any of that? Probably not. Either way, giving the secondary characters more time to shine is a good move, especially since Jason is so hard to tolerate in large doses. I've said it before and I'll say it again, he's like if lactose and gluten were a person. Anyway, the team has good chemistry eventually. Sophie's coming out of a shell, isn't she? And Clive's proving his value, the brilliant bastard. His wife must be proud. Yes, characters other than Jason are finally starting to show signs of intelligence and critical thinking. Oh, except the baddies. They're all as dumb as a bag of spoons. Wouldn't want anyone to pose an actual challenge now, would we? Maybe we'll get a worthy antagonist at some point. What else can I mention before we move on to the bad bits? Dialogue. While some of the dialogue's a little wooden and clunky, I am listening to the audiobook, so maybe it's partly the delivery. There are some great lines. I wouldn't call this book laugh out loud funny, but some moments are entertaining enough. Plenty of banter, maybe too much, but that's a soap opera style. More talk, less rock, less plot, in fact. That brings us to the bad bits of He Who Fights with Monsters, Book 2. Firstly, I still feel like Jason is being treated like a fragile parcel. The author isn't putting him in any truly challenging or transformational situations. He's had a lot of luck since arriving in his new world. Yeah, I get it now that I've devoured a few more lit RPG novels. Incredible luck is definitely a trope, but I want to see more genuine conflict, internal and external. At one point, a character literally says, Jason doesn't smell like regular sweaty men, he smells like springtime. What the hell? It said sincerely, and I laughed out loud. They're one step away from saying Jason's shit don't stink. I mean, I've just finished book two, and I feel like Jason's biggest challenges came at the start of book one. In those moments, it feels like he's in genuine danger. He doesn't even know where he is, what's happening, or where his eyebrows went. And he's faced with the real and confronting moral dilemma of whether killing people is suddenly okay, completely challenging his previously held belief system. Nothing has even come close to those opening challenges since. The killing dilemma resolves pretty quickly. He goes from killing's wrong to murder happy Jesus in an instant, seems to even enjoy it, which is an interesting character development. I'm a little concerned. My point is, I want to see his beliefs and morals challenged more. Why is this fresh smelling asshole being treated so delicately? A line you may or may not want to hear in the bedroom. The first half of book two is just characters hanging out, training, maybe having a barbecue or two. The plot, it's an afterthought, just like in a soap opera. Think of the typical soap opera. They've got to pump out hours of content each week, so most of it will feel like filler to anyone unfamiliar with the genre. That's what He Who Fights with Monsters feels like it's trying to meet a content quota. And knowing how the book was originally published, that may actually be the case. In some parts, it's like listening to paint dry. I'm not saying those slice of life moments are pointless. A well balanced story will have those lulls to give the characters and the narrative room to breathe. In many books, including He Who Fights with Monsters, they're used to facilitate character development and character exploration. If you look at book two and even book one through the soap opera lens, the lack of anything super impactful happening in the first 40 or so chapters makes sense. But for the average reader, for me at least, it's a tough read. You could almost cut this book in half and not exclude anything critical to the plot or characters. I would have liked to have seen these slice of life moments interwoven with a compelling plot. You can use the lulls to build up to the tense moments or even create a false sense of security before hitting readers with a monster surge of chaos. If the author was leading up to something epic in, say, the middle of the book, I could almost justify the slow start, but there's never any real tension. That's not entirely accurate. The first genuinely tense moment happens at the end of the book, and I'm worried I'll start book three and that whole situation will just fizzle out to nothing. The author can write tense and compelling scenes, just not when Jason's involved, it seems. Keep Jason safe. Don't let him get into any trouble. I don't want him hurt. What about Rufus and his crew? Ah, fuck them. Throw them to the dogs. I mean, two books in, and how many times now? Jason, the new guy, just strolling through life, and Rufus, he's got to work for it. I think that's funny. The lack of conflict and tension is my biggest issue with book two and most of book one. Jason isn't being morally or even physically challenged like he was at the beginning of book one. It's like he switched the video game to very easy mode when he's capable of winning on moderate at least. You know what it's like. You feel like a god smashing through baddies with little effort, but without genuine struggle. It gets boring after a while, just like life. By this point in the series, I needed strong evidence that Jason is about to be seriously challenged, and all I've got so far are vague hints. The fight scenes are. I don't know if the author does this on purpose or if at this point in the series he was still figuring out how to create tension, but they're so underwhelming. Frequently, too frequently, the author rattles off paragraphs of ability info in the middle of what's meant to be a tense fight. Way to kill the mood. It's like he doesn't want readers to be uncomfortable, ever. He Who Fights with Monsters is like a literary safe space. And any fight that Jason's in, he just dominates. It's like watching Mike Tyson in his prime beat up a bunch of toddlers. If they were bad kids, it might be amusing for a minute, but then it just gets sad. I mean, how many toddlers could you realistically watch Mike Tyson annihilate before you got bored? This might be fun. Put the number in the comments, and anyone who doesn't watch this far won't even know what the numbers mean. Keep them confused. In my mind, He Who Fights with Monsters really is a lit RPG soap opera. It focuses on character interactions over plot progression more than a typical character driven narrative does. There are so many technically cuttable scenes, just like in any soap opera. I'm sure most Monday to Friday TV soaps could be trimmed down to an hour if they cut the fluff. Look, I'm not saying the soap opera writing style is bad. I actually found myself enjoying it when my brain was fried from work and I didn't want to think too much. It's good background noise, it's literary fast food. It's not nourishing by any means, but it's great when you can't be asked cooking. But you've got to be in the mood for the fast food. If you're not and you're craving a gourmet meal, you're going to be sad. All right, let's discuss a major problem with the series that I've identified now that I have a clearer picture of what it is. The problem goes all the way back to the very beginning of book one. Think about how that book starts. I've already mentioned it. Tense scenes, fights for survival, moral dilemmas, shattered belief systems. Do you see the problem? The start of book one sets the series up as an action adventure story with tense survival situations and intense internal conflict. Those are the expectations the author sets with the opening. Then it turns into a soap opera. It's the old bait and switch, and it's why I was so confused by book one. Book two doesn't do this. It leans into the soap opera style right at the start. For most of the book, the plot just flops around on the deck like a fish out of water. It doesn't need to go anywhere. Not yet, anyway. When writing a book, it's very important to set expectations early, accurate expectations. Readers should have some sense of what they're getting into before they get in too far. Now, knowing what the series is, I know how to consume it. When I start book three, I'm going to listen to it with another book. Not at the same time, that's psychotic. I mean, when I need some easy listening, I'll put on He Who Fights with Monsters. When I want something more tense, I'll put on whatever the other book is. Now the big question, will I venture past book three? Well, that depends on book three now, doesn't it? With the characters, the world building and the magic system, I see so much potential in this series, but so far it keeps getting wasted. As a reader, as a writer, as an editor, it's so frustrating to see. I want this to be good. Not soap opera good, but compelling fantasy story good. Look, if in book three Jason actually starts to get challenged both physically and mentally, and his shit doesn't miraculously stop stinking. Wait, didn't he stop pooping at Iron Rank? I don't remember. Anyway, if I see some genuine conflict in book three, I may keep going with the series. Yeah, it's definitely Stockholm Syndrome at this point. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy this video, hit subscribe anyway, and hate watch my content. That's always fun.